Okay, Namah Shivaya, all of you. Very nice to be with you. I was when I was first asked, I was like, oh, not an online Zoom, because I just so much prefer seeing people's faces and like for real. But of course, that's not an option. This is a pretty good second option. But it's nice to be with you today. This morning for me, I got a little bit my sleepy face on. This evening for you, tonight for you. So we'll just start with a very short meditation. ध्यायामो धवलावगुण्ठनवते तेजोमयीं नैष्टिकीं स्निग्धापाङ्गविलोकिनीं भगवतीं मन्दस्मितश्रीमुखीं वात्सल्यामृतवर्षिणीं सुमधुरम् सङ्कीर्तनालापिनीं श्यामाङ्गे मधुसिक्तसूक्तिम् अमृतानन्दात्मिका ईश्वरी ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः. So let us all spend a few minutes in meditation. So let's close our eyes. Try and sit in a way that your spine is straight, but that you're still feeling comfortable. Like, don't get all tense. Just try and get that balance between sitting straight and with awareness, and also in comfort and relaxation. We're going to start just trying to come to this present moment. Try to let go of everything from your day, and just try to come to be right here and now. Let go of any thoughts about what you're going to do next, about what happens tomorrow. Let's chant Om 3 times together. With each Om, just imagine letting go of all the buildup of thoughts and emotions and tension, and feel like a beautiful, bright light washing over your being. Om. Now, let us imagine that Amma is sitting just in front of us. She's simply sitting there, gazing at us with immense love and compassion. Take a few moments just to enjoy looking at her form and looking at her beautiful smile. It's just you and Amma. While being under Amma's loving gaze, we'll now turn our attention towards our breath. Just watch your breath. Become aware of it. And don't force anything or change anything. Just watch the inhale and exhale. We'll now bring the sacred syllables Ma and Om onto our breath. So we inhale with the sound Ma, divine love. Feel Amma's love filling our being with every inhale. And exhale with Om, divine light. Every Om, again, let go. Let all negativities just wash away. Inhale, Ma. Exhale, Om. Gently, let us bring our attention back to Amma's form sitting in front of us. Let's gaze into those eyes, brimming with compassion. Let's feel Amma's love fill us completely. We are so full of love that love can start overflowing from us, going towards all the people around us. And slowly, gradually, let's imagine that love expanding so much that it encompasses the whole world. Hold the whole world in that love. And now let us imagine we're praying along with Amma for the well-being of every being in all the worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. And gently Open our eyes.
Thank you for the beautiful meditation, Amrita Chaitanya ji. Now, Amrita Chaitanya ji will be giving a satsang on the topic preparing for the future while surrendering. We're constantly faced with decisions and plans for our future, picking a major, choosing a career path, and making big life decisions. But how do we deal with the uncertainty of these decisions, not just in the long term, but also in our day-to-day lives, while trusting that Amma or the universe will guide us? How should we balance our self-effort with surrender and acceptance? Thank you so much.
Namah Shivaya. Okay, this is quite a very relevant topic for every single one of us, I think. And it's quite a big topic too. So I'm not claiming this is any satsang and full answer to this, but it's just a few thoughts I had on the topic. And of course, we can continue with the Q&A later. But as Ritu just said, like everything in life, in our lives might be in different ways, depending on our country, etc. But everything is very much geared up to planning for the future. Like if you look at our education system, also maybe our parents, family members, like our whole of society is geared up towards doing this, like studying, working towards, a career, getting a job. Also, when we have a job, like pension and insurance policy, health policy. So this is kind of our main focus, is this of society in general, is this kind of planning for the future in some way. Now, if you think of the context of all this, there's one thing, we're in the world which is in a state of constant change. Like that's the only thing that doesn't change in the world, is that it constantly changes. Like that's the only thing that we can be sure of, is that there's going to be change. And of course, we don't really like that. Like we kind of like naturally, we instinctively like, we're searching for stability and security. Even as a kid, I don't know if you had anything. Like I remember I had some special little rag or something I went around holding, or sucking your thumb, or holding on to some old teddy bear. Like even as kids, there's this yearning to just hold on to something that's stable and doesn't change. So we kind of want, basically, I like to see it as we want an anchor. So that when, then various, even when troubling times come, when there's big waves come our way, we've still got something that holds us and that we can hold on to. But the problem is that usually all of us, we tend to try and put our anchor in the wrong places. Like we hold on to things that we think are going to change, but actually inevitably will change. Like we think they're going to be there for us and stay for us in that way, but actually they're going to be subject to change. So whether it's our relationships, or even just our idea of life staying in a certain way. Actually, I'm going to just share a little story with you that happened pretty recently. It's my brother. I have a younger brother. He's not Amma's devotee. He's a very good person, and he's interested in spirituality, but more from a slightly, philosophical perspective, like thinking about it. But it doesn't become, it's not like doing any kind of meditation or sadhana or having any devotional path or whatever. So his life has gone pretty smoothly until now, like in terms of, or until then, the moment of this story, until, he's got a good job that he likes, a partner, they got on very well, a nice house, like everything seemed pretty hunky-dory, as my dad would say. But then, so they were, so my sister-in-law got pregnant, but then there was basically, and that went fine until I think around the 4th or 5th month. The doctors did a scan and they were really concerned. They said the baby might have this kind of horrible, whatever. There might be a major issue with the baby that would severely impact the child's life, kind of thing. So, of course, as you can imagine, just with that information, their lives were just turned upside down completely. I mean, they lost any peace of mind. I remember my brother calling me and he was crying. I hadn't heard my brother cry as an adult ever. And he was fully, he just didn't, I could just see that. This, when you don't have anything to hold on to, there's something that just upsets you so much, and there's nothing that can give you solace. So he was crying on the phone. We spoke for a while. I tried to just comfort him, to say, don't worry, it's going to somehow be okay. Just trust in life. But of course, it's harder. We know as Amma devotees, we know the kind of things that we can tell each other to make ourselves feel somewhat, get some kind of peace of mind in difficult situations, is just to turn towards Amma, to think of Amma. And that gives us immense solace, even if it doesn't completely give us entire, if we might still be stressed, but it still gives us a big, like a buffer. And I felt so bad because I felt there was no buffer for my brother. I think he still felt better from talking, like just talking it over, and maybe crying, crying can help also, just to release some tension. So that day, after talking to him, I was sitting for bhajans, and I thought, suddenly the thought came to me. I thought, wait a minute, I should just tell him that he should pray. You just try out praying. And I just suddenly thought, wait a minute, this is what I need to tell him. But then I felt a bit nervous too. I'm like, is he going to think, if it might seem too weird for him. Because if you don't have that concept of having a God you can pray to, you don't have a man, like, what is he going to, he might just shut down thinking I'm trying to be too preachy or something. But I just thought, okay, I'm just going to give it a go. So after bhajans, I wrote a little text and I said, look, I just had a thought. Why don't you just try out praying? I said, look, even if you don't know that or you don't believe, or even if imagine there isn't any kind of divine being or God who's going to hear you, at least during that time of when you're actually praying, then you're not worrying. Like, you can't have two same thoughts at the same time. So you can't be both praying and worrying at the same time. So at the very least, when you're praying, you won't be worrying. And then I added a little at the end of the message. I'm like, if this seems too out there for you, just, totally, I won't feel bad if you ignore this completely, just ignore it. It's fine. So I left it at that. And I didn't get an answer for him. So I thought, anyway, I tried, we'll see what happens. But then the next day, I got a voice note, a voice message from him. And he was like, well, you can still hear like the sorrow on his voice. They're going through hell. Like, it's just torture, this whole situation for them. And he said, well, yesterday, oh no, today, it was the evening. He's like, so today I got to my office to work. And before working, I just sat on the floor and I prayed. And I was like, oh my God. And anyway, and then he said, anyway, the voice message went on. And then we exchanged several messages over the next few days. But just that image of my brother, so he's Western. We don't have sitting on the floor. It's a bit of a kind of foreign concept, the whole thing, that he took it so seriously and sincerely that for that he had to be sitting on the floor. And basically, he made this some kind of a practice, like for several days, for the next couple of weeks, at least. Almost, I think, somehow he kept something going till the end of the pregnancy to some extent. Some element of sitting down, doing some kind of a meditation, some kind of a prayer. Imagine, that baby being surrounded by some golden light. He also told me, he said, I did think of Amma's face. He did think of Amma. Of course, I was, as you can imagine, really happy. But what I was so happy about was that he got solace from that. And somehow it was a very striking image for me, because even someone who hasn't had that practice throughout their life of turning towards the divine, having some kind of spiritual practice, some kind of relationship with whatever we imagine as the divine can still get so much solace and support from that in times of difficulty, just from going into that place of connecting with something greater than us, something beyond us. So I thought this was a good example of showing where our anchor should be, basically. And especially since that, like, somehow, so it's your brother, you kind of feel that you go through the emotions yourself a little bit. I'm not, we're following this path with Amma trying to go beyond attachments, but I still have attachments, he's my brother. So I really felt it in a way, a very kind of whatever, a way that really touched me, and thinking, oh my God, life is so fragile. And we just invest our emotions and our attachments, etc., in things that are going to crumble anyway. So the only way to have that kind of that strength is to invest in something that's going to be with us always. And that's something within us. We need to put that anchor in the divine, which means within ourselves. It's not different. But sometimes I do think also in society, in life, we talk, like, even the way that this question is like, oh my God, it's so stressful. Everything's going to change. The people I care for, they might get sick and they might die, or they might, my job, I might lose my job, my house, like everything is so volatile. And somehow we can kind of go into a downward spiral of, stressing out about this, just thinking there's nothing I can hold on to and that everything's going to change. It's just very deconcerting for all of us, me included, like all of us. But what I think is, rather than thinking and stressing about what's going to change and focusing on that nature of the world of it's going to change, just if we focus in a positive way on building or strengthening that relationship we have with the divine, that space of spirituality within ourselves. And it's not like, oh, everything is going to change and nothing is there, so I have to come. No, it's just in a positive way. If you just think this is what's going to give me so much strength and nourishment and just mental strength and well-being and happiness. Like, don't worry about, oh, I shouldn't, don't see the negative side of what's happening in the world, but just think of, this is the real source of what's going to give me joy, what's going to help me in everything, including my work, in how I interact with people and everything, and try and make this our anchor. Then, of course, we go on, we function in the world, we do our education. Of course, we are faced with situations where we make decisions. But when you think about it, like, we all have to make decisions. And life, whatever the decisions we make, life is going to be a mix of, nice experiences and more difficult experiences. There's not like, I think sometimes we have a tendency to think that we have to somehow make the right step at every point along the way to have the perfect life. There is no such thing as a perfect life. Like, we all in the same boat. It's not like, oh, some people got it right, some people got it wrong. We're all going to make decisions that are going to be imperfect, because the nature of life is that. So I think we should try to take that pressure off of ourselves of having to like make the right decision, the right job, the right relationship. It's all going to be a mixed bunch, a mixed bag. It's a package deal that we get, and you can't like select only a certain part of it. So it's not like there's not one bad decision, one good decision. Why can we just try our best and just carry on? If we carry on in some way, building that. And Amma actually tells a story, which is, I won't go into the whole story, just it'll take too much time, but I'm imagining most of you would have heard it, but I'll give the gist in case. It's a kingdom where anyone who comes and who becomes the king, he can only rule for, I can't remember, 5 or 10 years. Imagine 5 years. And after that, the rule is he's got to go so he can enjoy the luxuries and everything of the kingdom and the palace, blah, 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 for 5 years. And after that, he's gone and sent off to some wild desert island And basically he's left to be like eaten up by the wild animals. That's pretty well the thing. So of course people do come forward, they become king, but then as the years go on, as the time of the when they need to be sent off to the island approaches, they all start getting depressed and freaked out and whatever. And sure enough, they meet their end. But there's one king who he ascends to the throne. And even though the years are passing by, it's getting towards the end of his 5-year term. And he's just as relaxed as when he first came in. He's happy and joking and enjoying life. And the people, they're like, what? How can you do this? Like everyone else started getting nervous and depressed and whatever. Like knowing that the end of your ruling is in sight, how and that you're going to be just dumped on this island. How can you be so relaxed? And he says, well, the reason is during my rule of these 5 years, I've sent people to that island and I've cleared some of the forest. I built a nice palace for myself. I've sent a lot of people who are already living there, waiting to receive me as their king. You know, I've got cultivated areas for farming, for food. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. He's basically prepared a nice little situation for himself over there. And this is basically what we do. Like this, any effort we put in on the spiritual path, any effort we put in into our relationship with Amma, into trying to just somehow having that anchor within, just whatever, even small extent, even 5 minutes a day, whatever it is, that is our building that security for ourselves. It's getting rid of all the dangers on that desert island. And then no matter what comes our way, we've got that buffer, we've got that inner strength, we've got something that can enable to face it in a very courageous and strong way. Doesn't mean we're not going to suffer, but it just takes the edge off it. We have that safe buffer, and that what we hold the most dear and the closest to us will remain with us. Have I gone? Is it time? I should probably wind up, right? Time-wise. I think that gives enough food for thought for the breakout sessions and questions, right? Okay.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The next segment, Amrita will be playing the flute, so this will be a perfect time to let the satsang really settle in. Yeah. Thank you so much, Amrita. Yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, her name Amrita Chaitanya ji and Amrita today.
Yay.
Yeah.
Amrita team.
Namah Shivaya, my name is Amrita. I'm from Minnesota. Go to the University of Minnesota. I'm in like my dorm room right now.
Oh, that's
Today
nice.
I'll be playing a kriti called Govardhana Giridhari in Dagam Darbari Kannada by Narayana Tirtha.
That was so beautiful. Thank you, Amrita.
I just wanted to say that was so beautiful. The flute, Amrita, that was amazing. Couldn't help but picture Lord Krishna on the banks of the Yamuna calling the gopis. It's such a soulful raga, I think, also. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
So, for our next segment, we'll be splitting up into breakout rooms where we can all discuss Amrita Chaitanya Ji's satsang. And if each group could come up with one question together for Amrita Chaitanya Ji, we'll come back for a question and answer session in 10 minutes.
So I
Yeah, if group 4 wants to start with their question.
Arun, Ayud Phoenix, Kali Devi, Lakshmi, Nandini, Raj.
Sure. We discussed a couple of things, and I think we had the question I think we all kind of connected with was what you said, Amrita Chaitanya ji, about you have somebody else in your life who doesn't have that spiritual anchor. So in moments of distress, they don't have that kind of a something to fall back on. And if something happens to us, then we have all these tools that we can try and community that we can lean on and spiritual anchor, but it's much harder when it happens to someone we love and we're like, we just want to like, oh, if only you could just have all of this and feel safe and secure. So how can we, I don't know, how can we kind of deal with that situation? And like if we're dealing with close friends or family and we really want to help them and they're facing uncertainty, anxiety, or worries, how can we help ourselves and also help them? If you could speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's one I don't know if there's any real fully satisfying answer to. I mean, I don't feel I've ever heard a fully satisfying answer to this question, because it's still, when you come to talking about, the pain of a loved one, of another person, nothing can really be like, oh, okay, that's fine then. Like, so I just think there are just what we can do with the extent of what we can do is just be a presence for them. Often also, there's two things we kind of have to accept within ourselves, that there is only so much we can do. Like, we can't enter into that person's mind. They are a different person. They have their thing going on, even if they're not devotees or whatever, they do have their thing going on with their life, their experience. They are part of the divine. So ultimately, they're going to there's nowhere for them to fall away from the divine ultimately. Okay, but it still doesn't help us think, okay, then it's fine that this person is suffering. So I just think from the extent that we can do is two things. One is just be as present as we can. And that's what Am always says about listening. Like, I think we do, sometimes when someone tells us their problems or their suffering, or we're listening to them, we have a tendency to just want to find solutions and fix it. And that usually kind of it doesn't really help often. I mean, of course, there's a place for that if in certain contexts. But I think the first thing is just to have that person be heard and just share that pain. There's no need for words. That even just that, you know it yourself. Like, I know for myself, if I'm upset about something, if someone says, no, but don't worry, you just need to do this and this, you're like, you just want you want to be heard and understood, and just someone to just be with you in that, from that moment, just to validate your feeling, acknowledge, and just, so I think as Amma's children, the more we can try to just do that, just to try to just shut ourselves up and be present for the person. And actually, okay, you got to stop me because I could go on for long, okay? So keep an eye on the time, please. Ritu, will you keep me in check? Because there's a point here, and that is that if us in ourselves, we're going through a hard time, we're stressed about our lives, about our relationships, or our job, whatever it is, if we're experiencing a lot of stress, it's harder for us to be present in a deep way, in a real way, for other people. So that comes back to the fact that any kind of spiritual practice, any kind of meditation, any kind of japa, any kind of efforts on the spiritual path that we make for ourselves, like for our mental peace, for us to be well, that by itself, like that itself overflows to other people, because only when we're feeling good and kind of centered within ourselves and anchored and pretty stable and peaceful and happy, or whatever, happy sounds like a cheap kind of word, but content and have some well-being within ourselves, only then can we really be fully present for someone else, because then we're available. Our mental, everything, energy isn't taken up by our own problems. So one is, just by trying to do better ourselves, automatically that helps with the people around us. Secondly, it also serves as an example. I think one of the reasons why my brother heard my advice, of course, he's my brother, whatever, but also he sees, and I think he sees how happy I am in my life. So of course, then you're like, oh yeah, I should give that a go. Like, it kind of gives validity to our path to just be content with it, and without trying to, preach or push our ideas onto others. Just when others see us, I remember at school in my, when I was in high school, I remember friends, of course, everyone used to smoke all sorts of things and whatever. I was the only one who didn't in my group of friends. They'd all smoke. Like they'd smoke cannabis and everything in the break at school and everything. But slowly they were like, wait a minute, you're happier than us. Like, you don't even smoke and you seem happier than us. So what is that? And slowly they all stopped. I mean, this is Amma's grace, whatever, but they all kind of stopped smoking. They didn't all turn to spirituality or anything, but just by us, all of us Amma's children, being a presence without trying to impose ourselves or impose our ideas, and trying to focus on just being well, being content within ourselves, that has its ripple effect in whichever way. So that's, I think, what I'd say for that question. But again, it's still the pain of seeing someone else's pain is painful no matter what. And that's just part of, we also can let ourselves feel the pain without just trying to not get swallowed by it. And just think, okay, this is as much. And also, another point is we can pray for that person, even for ourselves. Like if it's getting us down too much, seeing the pain of another one, even if we try to offer that person to Amma, offer their pain to Amma ourselves, that can just help to not us be pulled down by it.
Thank you so much. Group 3, which was Priyanka, Arti, Parvati, Shivajyoti, and Sharda.
Namah Shivaya. So in our group, we discuss a lot about like our perceptions and curiosities around like surrender, acceptance, and like navigating uncertainty. So we just have like a two-part question that I hope you can answer. Um, so the first question is, how do you balance prayer with surrender? And the second question is, how do we implement surrender with faith to create a buffer or a sense of hope when we live in uncertainty on a day-to-day basis or even in the long term?
Okay. So wait, the first one is prayer. How do you balance prayer and surrender, right?
Right.
Okay. So we'll just start with that. And that is a good question. So it depends here with prayer. When in that question, my understanding is when we say prayer, we're asking for something, right? Because only then will the prayer and surrender issue come into it, of how much do you want something and ask for something, but then at the same time, surrender to what is best or what is going to come. So even in prayer, if you think about prayer, there are different stages to prayer. And the very first, and any form of prayer is good. So it's not like we're not going to say any form is bad. Every form of prayer is good because it helps us in, build that relationship with Amma, with the divine, whatever. But the basic, like the first level is when we ask for something like, oh, please, may I, my whatever, someone else, may I feel better? May my health be okay? I pass the exam? May I get the job? May I find the partner my soul life partner? Blah. All these prayers we may have, and they're completely valid. And again, it's what Amma says. They are a step towards building that relationship with the divine. But ultimately, we don't stop there. Prayer, we've got to be honest with ourselves. So if that is what we're wanting, like if that's the desire that's coming from us and that's what we want to pray for, we should definitely pray for that. But we also, with that, we can try to add another element of the next level of prayer. It's like how Amma says there's different levels of love. So different levels of prayer. Ultimately, the best, the top, if that's the bottom level prayer, the top level is, oh Lord, only you know what's best for me. Let your will be done, and just give me the mental strength to act in the way that pleases you. Like, or something like that. Or, oh Lord, all I want is, to just keep having love for you, and that my life is an expression of my love for you. Like that, those will be the kind of prayers at that top kind of level. So I think when we're praying, we got, as I said, there's no point in pretending. Like prayer is my way sincere. It's just us and God, and we have to be entirely sincere with where we're at. And it's fine if we're at that first level, but we should just, even in that prayer, try to bring in an element of the next level. Like, for example, we pray for whatever you want to pray for, and at the end, you could just think, this is what I want, this is what I'm praying for. At the same time, please grant me, give me that mental strength to accept if your will is something different, or please give me the mental strength to act in the right way. Like, just try and bring in an element a bit more expansive into the prayer. Or another way is also of, at the end of the prayer, actually, things I told you about my brother, I just want to add this. After his whole incident with his first day of praying, and then he was praying, we exchanged several messages on the topic of prayer. And he told me, he said, the thing is that, fine, I was quite impressed with his insight, actually, because I was telling him about the ego. We had a few exchanges. And then he said, okay, you're telling me that prayer helps us go beyond the ego, ultimately. But here I am praying, saying, please protect my baby and my wife, and whatever. He's like, how do these two go together? And what I told him, I kind of explained a little bit what I'm saying now, but I also said, at the end of your prayer, just, try and maybe pray for the well-being of the whole world as well, just to have that bring in an expansiveness inside it. So I'd say for the balance of prayer and surrender, in the same way, just bring that surrender into the prayer. Try and make the two come together. Give yourself time. Okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm praying for. And just end with, okay, can I just try and go to that next level of, can I try to surrender this? Like, pray for it and then surrender it. Like, combine them into a similar practice. And then slowly with time, it'll become more natural just to develop that kind of surrender. But for the beginning, I would just do that. Like, build your surrender into your prayer. Oh, sorry. Okay, what was the second question then? Can you just remind me this? What was the buffer? Something about a buffer. Can you just tell me clearly the sentence
Just
again?
giving us some insight on it. The second question is, how do we try to implement surrender with faith to create like a buffer or like a sense of hope when we live in uncertainty on a day-to-day basis?
I guess it's the same. I mean, it's the same thing. It's also with faith. If always says these two are both prasada buddhi and puja manobhavam. These two kind of summarize. They hold the whole essence of spiritual knowledge, or she even says of the Vedas. They're contained within those two. So I think it's through the practice of those two that we really get a buffer. And also, I was just talking during the breakout sessions with Punya, that basically we function in general, most of us, or the vast majority of us, we function on a very kind of emotional level. Like, whether we've had a good day or a bad day, or how happy we are, how content we are, it's very much ruled by, our feelings. Like if we've got, if we're with someone we love, or someone we love is having a hard time, or someone we love hurts us, that's going to really affect how we feel that day, and how we perceive our day, how we perceive our life. So we're very much under the sway of emotions in most of our functioning, really. So we can, of course, if you psychologically, mentally, theoretically, just have that thought that, okay, the nature of the world is ever changing. So I got to realize it's that. So then I should just accept when things change and not get upset by it. That's important, but that alone is not going to really cut it. So that's why because when you have a problem, the solution has to be at the solution that comes to address the problem should be at the same kind of level, right? So when our problem is quite a lot on the emotional level, then, and this is how I see it, I was actually trying to explain this to my brother, then the solution has to also kind of meet us at that same level. So that's why just when we're feeling so upset, you think, nature of the world, suffering's part of it, package deal. It's like, yeah, thanks, whatever, it's not going to help. Whereas if you really develop that, if we work on the example I just was telling Punya also is imagine you got a mom, a mom who's had a baby, and she, of course, full on bond mother baby. She adores the baby. Her whole life is revolving around the baby, like 24/7. Imagine if some issue, there's some problems around her in the city and her friends and her neighbor, whatever. There may be many problems may happen, but she is so emotionally invested in the baby that if the baby's okay, she's somehow going to be okay. Like that would be if anything happens to the baby, it's a whole different story. But no matter what happens in her life, somehow, because of that emotional investment, if the baby's okay, she'll be okay. So in the same kind of way, you got to imagine our spirituality, our bond with Amma, our bond with the divine is we got to make it like that baby, like that emotional investment. It's how much time and emotion we invest in someone else or in something else that creates that attachment and that bond, and that makes that object or personal thing or whatever it is have so much sway, like influence over us. So the more we invest, and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I mean like 5 minutes every morning or 5 minutes every evening on trying to do a japa, like all of us will have our slight different methods of what works for us to build this relationship. But every bit that we build of that relationship with the divine acts directly as a buffer. Like just that itself acts as a buffer in times of uncertainty, whatever, when things come our way, because it's something that no one can take away from us. It's something within us that no situation can, no one, we're completely empowered with that because it's completely beyond, no one can reach that. No one can take it away. No one can reduce it. So it's a buffer that is completely safe. And of course, I don't want to, paint an all rosy picture. We'll still suffer. But as you said, you said the word buffer. So that's going to create a buffer and just take the edge away from that suffering. Like the mom with the baby, she has her baby. There may be a war zone around, whatever around. If she's got the baby, there's going to be something in her. She's going to stay okay. That our relationship with the divine should become that most precious baby.
Thank you. Group 2, Anurag, Gayatri, Pallavi, Rishi, Vandya, Shrey, and Georgia.
What you just said, Namah Shivaya, thank you for being here. What you just said actually goes in really well with our question. So a lot of us have this sadhana practice, say some of us do, and we're trying to develop that anchor to Amma. So our question is, how do we know if our anchor to Amma or the divine is getting stronger?
Well, it can only, any effort, there's in the Bhagavad Gita, what is it? Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. It means any effort along this path, it'll never go to waste. Like in life, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of areas in which our efforts, we might feel get lost along the way, or if we don't give enough time. If we try learning an instrument, we just put a little bit of effort, then we forget for a few months, and that you don't feel that effort really bore fruit. But on the path of spirituality, on this path, every little bit of effort, it has its fruit. So we just need to just know for sure. There's no need to go and check it or whatever. There's no external person needs to tell us that yes, your relationship is getting stronger. If you're putting an effort into it, it is definitely getting stronger. That's the point. And this, again, well, as you said, it does tie with the previous question, that whatever we think about is what we invested in, is what we become attached to emotionally. So the more that we can put our mind on Amma, the divine, whatever it, on our japa, anything, that's going to create that, just going to make it stronger, strengthen that bond. And there is also, when you look in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, there's an interesting point there which talks about how vasanas are created, or how samskaras in your mind, that imprint. So the idea, our Swami taught us the sutras a few years ago, this part, and he gave us an example. He said, if you have a thought, it's like every time you have a thought, it's like, imagine in your mind it leaves a stamp, like this, whatever stamp that you put on postage envelopes, on not the stamp you stick, but the, you call it with the ink, the stamp thing. So every time you have a thought, it leaves an imprint, a mark, a kind of stamp on your mind, like, or in your antakarana, in your inner instruments, whatever, in your being. So every time, imagine if you think about Amma, it's going to leave an imprint, a mark. Then when you think about Amma again the next day, it's going to leave again the mark in the same place. So that's going to be stronger. So the more you repeat that, the more every time you have the same kind of thought pattern, try to bring your mind to the same kind of place, it's going to make that samskara within stronger. And that's something that never goes. And even for lifetimes to, in the Yoga Sutras, it shows us that even in the future, that's, it's carried as part of our being that just doesn't go. So I think the main point is just to make sure within ourselves, we've got to be clear with, we are putting an effort. As long as you're putting an effort, then definitely all that is going the right direction. And that strengthening of the bond is definitely happening.
Next, group 1. So Amrita Kripa and Amrita and Priya and Sahaja and Vaishnavi. And yeah.
Namah Shivaya, we actually had a very similar question to group 4. We also had the question, like, if we see someone who's struggling and they don't necessarily like have that relationship with Amma that we all have, and like, what can we do? How can we help them? Which I think was answered very thoroughly, and I definitely understand it better now.
Is there any more questions? How many more questions do we have then?
All the rooms are done, Amrita Chaitanya ji,
Okay,
but
it's okay. I can create a question. Do we have time, or do you need to wind up?
I think one last question should be okay. Yeah.
I can have my own question and answer then. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's just at one point that there's two little, please shut me up when it's time, like when we need to stop. Feel free, because it's just 2 points though that came into my mind that I feel are kind of relevant here. One is the need for grace. And that's how Amma says that, when any action we do, for it to come, to bear fruit or to have in a favorable way, there are 3 factors. There's the right time, the right effort, and grace. And so this is very much having grace. Like, we need to put in efforts, and then from the aspect of the decisions we make, the efforts we put in towards, I don't mean only towards the spiritual path, but just our life in general, for the future and everything. So for there to be more favorable, like, environment, no matter what, again, this grace is something that's beyond, that's not touched by external situations changing and everything. So that's also a kind of form of insurance in a way, having the grace. So I just wanted to mention just briefly that whenever Amma talks about grace, the main thing she says is pravritti le vritti. It's having that purity in our actions, which she explains as selflessness, basically, of having, doing something for someone else, trying to have compassion, trying to, just putting someone else's needs in front of ours. So that's just one point. But again, in uncertainty, another buffer is that should go hand in hand with our efforts towards developing our own relationship with the divine, is also expanding that to include a form of, trying to make ourselves less self-centered, expressing selflessness in some way. It can be like what we've been talking about, listening to someone suffering, being present for them. It can be actively engaging, and AYUDH offers many opportunities in something, but that's one factor also that just creates that buffer in a way as well, just slightly different angle. And just a second point I also wanted to touch on, and that is how we react to big situations that come our way, like something that's going to be very hard for us to deal with, like a big issue. How we react to a big issue is a reflection of how we're able to react to a small issue. So if we don't need to wait for, like, in the case of my brother or whatever, of a big, hard situation to deal with, like the more we put into practice our, efforts towards prayer, towards surrender, towards that idea of putting in efforts, but then ultimately accepting that the result is not in our hands. So that's surrender. But the more we put in, give importance to how we accept small situations in our day to day. We all of us, every day, we have certain situations, maybe they slightly irritate us, slightly disappoint us, slightly hurt us. We all have this, no exceptions. But if we just start trying to pay attention to ourselves and our mind and seeing how we can react to those situations, that's like it's building our muscle. Like the more we can actually keep a good attitude, try to have our surrender, try to remember whatever works for us. It's going to be slightly different for each person, but if we give importance to that and put in effort, it's like our little daily gym, so that we have those muscles for when the big whatever it is, may it not come, but if ever it does, if there's a really difficult situation that comes, we kind of have those tools and we have the muscle to deal with it. Just those were my two little points I wanted to add.
Thank you. Actually, I had a small follow-up on what you just said, Amrita Chaitanya ji, and I'm so sorry, Ayudh Phoenix. Thank you guys for waiting so patiently, for the bhajan. Uh, like when you say like the put yourself in the gym for these smaller decisions, like should we be putting ourselves in situations that we know that will like trigger us, or like how do we I'm saying like you can start with like a 2 pound weight, right? But like how do you know what rate to increase it? Because like my tendency is like I'm gonna stay in my room and like I'm gonna sleep for 5 more hours today because that's the gym I can handle. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
It's a funny question. No, we don't need to bring triggers to ourselves, because we all are surrounded by many triggers. I'm sure every day. Okay, there's a bit of a fine line there. We shouldn't stay away. Like, it's just be normal. Like, don't like try to cover, stay safe and away from interactions or whatever. Don't stay closed, barricaded in your room to avoid situations. But at the same time, if we just lead a normal kind of life, which it's bound to have interacting with people, interacting with family, interacting with friends, dealing with the news, having all sorts of difficult things at the workplace, studies with the struggling with the studies. I'm getting a little dyslexic. But whatever it is, the triggers, we don't need to worry about them. There are plenty of them, and life provides them for free on us, no problem. And if you have any concern about whether life will provide enough challenges, don't worry, because Amma will provide the challenges. The Guru's job description is to try to make us grow. So that's going to sometimes come with a little blow, a little tap, a little pinch, a little hit from life as well. So we, as Amma's children, anyway, not only Amma's children, everyone has triggers, but we really don't have to worry, because we're going to get special tailor-made triggers as well. Shall we wind up? Are we in time? Is it time should we have the bhajan?
Yes, it's time for bhajans. Big shout out to Ayudh Phoenix. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for the question and answer session. Amrita Chaitanya ji. Big shout out to Ayudh Arizona, or Ayudh Phoenix specifically, for gathering on a Tuesday evening for our bhajan. They'll be singing Vagadishwari today.
Nice bhajan.
वागदीश्वरि शारदे वरदायिनी चतुर्वेदरूपिणि वाङ्मयी अमृतेश्वरी वागदीश्वरि शारदे वरदायिनी चतुर्वेदरूपिणि वाङ्मयी अमृतेश्वरी वागदीश्वरि शारदे वरदायिनी चतुर्वेदरूपिणि वाङ्मयी अमृतेश्वरी देवदेव मनोहरि तनुजानकी शतकोटि बालदिवाकरो जलरूपिणी देवदेव मनोहरि तनुजानकी शतकोटि बालदिवाकरो जलरूपिणी शतकोटि बालदिवाकरो जलरूपिणी शतकोटि बालदिवाकरो जलरूपिणी नाम कीर्तन लोलुपे सुरापूजिते शुकनारदादि विराजिते नरपालिके नाम कीर्तन लोलुपे सुरापूजिते शुकनारदादि विराजिते नरपालिके शुकनारदादि विराजिते नरपालिके शुकनारदादि विराजिते नरपालिके चन्नमुन्ननि शोधिनि वनचन्दिके जय शङ्कराङ्गनि वासिनि ललिताम्बिके चन्नमुन्ननि शोधिनि वनचन्दिके जय शङ्कराङ्गनि वासिनि ललिताम्बिके जय शङ्कराङ्गनि वासिनि ललिताम्बिके जय शङ्कराङ्गनि वासिनि ललिताम्बिके शम्मदैत्यविनाशिनि शिवरञ्जिनि भवभीतिभञ्जिनि देहि चतुर्वेदरूपिणि वाग्मयी अमृतेश्वरी चतुर्वेदरूपिणि वाग्मयी अमृतेश्वरी
Thank you guys so much. That was amazing.
Really nice singing and super bhajan.
Ooh. And the camera work was so cool too.
True.
Yeah, thank you, Shankar. Thank you, Anupam. Thank you, Vibha. Thank you, Ananya. And thank you, Ameya. Yeah. Yeah. And with that, we are done with our session today. Thank you so much again, Amrita Chaitanya ji. And very interesting note to close on, but a quick announcement. There will be a online session tomorrow at 10 p.m. PST for those who are interested in joining another AYUDH Q&A. But yeah, Amrita Chaitanya ji, if you'd like to end with some Loka Samasta. Thank you.
Sure. Anyway, it's been nice seeing all of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. I had a lot of fun. Hope to see you all again sometime. And let's just end with the Loka Samasta. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you so much, everyone. If anyone wants to stay back to play some online games, we'll be having that again today. Thank you again, Amrita Chaitanya ji. Namah Shivaya.
Done already.
Namah Shivaya. Thank you, everyone.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much, guys, for the bhajans. That was fantastic. Oh, I
That
think
was
they
so,
they leave already. Oh, that was so
yeah,
good.
that was so awesome. Like full setup and everything. That was so cool.
That was all Shankar does.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are there. Yeah, thanks, guys. That was
Yeah,
great.
it was beautiful.